Welcome to Lead Up, It's All About You, the podcast where leadership meets action. My name is Eduard Lopez. I'm a leadership coach with a long experience leading teams in multinational organizations. Here we have the intention to explore practical insights, share real stories, and spark conversations that might make managers and leaders reflect and discover what works best for them and their teams. Whether you're managing a small team or leading on a global scale, this is your space to connect, explore ideas, and shape your own leadership journey. Let's then lead up together. Hello and welcome to the first edition of You Lead, It's All About You podcast. And this is my first experience with a podcast. We start actually today what we expect to be a series of different podcasts. So I think, or I would like you to forgive any mistake, any misstep, and bear with us, with our guests and the message that we would like to deliver to all of you. First of all, to those who don't know me, my name is Eduard Lopez. I have engineering background. I have developed my professional career in several different organizations, multinational companies. And after a while, I have decided to step out and to create my own company where I partner with CEOs and HR directors in manufacturing environments, manufacturing operations, to help them build a plant where the leaders lead, the good people stay, and the teams work together. So this is the work I'm doing, and the purpose of this podcast is to bring you here leaders who we think we can learn from, with a long experience in professional careers, and with the right mindset, the right values, the right skills that we consider leaders should have to develop his influence and his impact. So this is the first edition, as I said before, and I have the pleasure to introduce you to my friend Bogdan. Hello, Bogdan.
Buenos días.
Buenos días. Bogdan is a person who I met probably 2 years ago, something like that. And I think I resonated very fast with him, with his way of being, his values, his approach, his personal approach. And I think I decided to invite Bogdan today as the first guest for this podcast to hear his story, his journey. You will see a very interesting journey and personal story, and to get inspired and to get some advices and to get some views of how he sees leadership and the impact in life after all these years of professional career. So let me give you a few notes, and I will let Bogdan to introduce himself. So Bogdan is now Chief Commercial Officer at MDA Consulting. He is a person who shows these comments and values about trust. He speaks about trust. He speaks about respect for customers, that not too many people I have heard about being respect for customers a value. And also partnership. So that means that tell us a lot about who the person is. And he has had a pretty long professional career. He has worked in companies like Nokia, like Procter & Gamble, like Unilever, so like Vodafone, just to name a few. And I would like to welcome and introduce Bogdan by himself so he can tell us a little bit more. So please, Bogdan.
Thank you. Thank you, Eduard. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me. It's a great pleasure and an honor for me to be your first guest at the podcast. It's also in a location that is quite impressive. I have to say, I've never been in a studio which is so fancy as this one, so much appreciated. Indeed, we met a couple of years ago. I think we met in the farmers market downtown Oradea. You were tasting we invited you to taste our products, and I think you liked them. And this gave us the chance to speak more and to get to know each other better over the years. I really enjoy being here, and I really have to say that throughout the years, I was blessed to have various experiences, both personal and professional. And I think that I'm very grateful for where I am today, because whatever I am today, it's the result of all the experiences I had throughout my life.
Definitely.
Today, I'm juggling between 2 or 3 roles, actually. The first and most important one is as a family member, let's say. We have a lovely family that we are taking care of each other, in the middle of the mountains, where we relocated ourselves from the big cities 5 years ago. And the second one is, as you mentioned, as a commercial director for MD Converting, which is a company in the industrial space focused mainly on automotive industry. So here I think we have some common language because you also have a strong background in industrial space, and I also have this. And the third role is being a farmer, which is the newest role I have since the last 5 years, actually 7 years since we started. So everyone is asking me, how do you juggle between the three roles? How are you able to get time for everything? And the response is usually simple. There are 24 hours in a day, and I'm happy to sleep only a few of them, and all the others dedicating to the different roles I had. I spent more than 17 years in the corporate world before having these 3 roles. So basically, all the 3 roles are new today. 17 years of experience working exclusively in multinational corporations. I started very small. So during the university, actually, I started working. And I had entry-level roles in sales in the beginning. And I was very lucky because since university, I was volunteering. And this was one of the things that made me realize how important it is to be prepared, for what comes next. Unlike friends of mine who are only studying, I combined studying with being a member of ISEC, which was the International Student Associations of Students in Economics. And through that, I had the first contact with the leadership. This was the first time when I was taught by, older, let's say, students how to lead, not necessarily how to manage, because we were a volunteering organization. And when you work with volunteers, obviously, it's different when you work with employees, right? Because people there are doing things because you inspire them to do something, and they believe in you and what actually the organization is doing. So this was my first experience. I have to say that I was not great, obviously, because I had no experience.
But now I know from where your skills are coming, right?
Yes, I developed my skills. So the school in Romania, as probably many of the people following the podcast will know, is not necessarily a school that is teaching you to be outspoken. It's a school that is built on a system, an old system, which says you have to stay quiet, do whatever they told you to
give
do.
Directions to people.
Give directions.
People follow.
Exactly. And that's it. So I realized that this model is not really something that will work on the long run. And I started to see how I can develop my skills. In the beginning, as I said, I was shy. I was not able to stay in front of anyone. I always felt that I should hide somewhere in a corner. So I was not a very extrovert person, but on the contrary. And I only could develop the skills that I have today through practice. I practice luckily early enough so that I can, I could really shape them in the way that I became today.
Very good. Very good. So that is the start, right? So
Yes.
and it's a very good start because, as you say, I agree that when you deal with in many environments, when you deal with employees, many cultures expect you to set the direction, to tell what they need to do, and they like or not, they do, or we are pushing them to do. This is probably long term is not the best option to grow and to create an organization that is successful, that is flexible, that is creative, and that is able to grow, to adapt to the market and to the different conditions. But this can help in a very small in a very specific situation like crisis or
correct.
These situations where you really need to make things happening now. But many managers, many leaders take this like default approach, right? Default approach is I'm here, the one who is setting up the activities, you do what I say, right?
Correct.
And when you work with people who don't report directly to you, as you mentioned in the volunteering work, this directive leadership approach doesn't work. You just need to convince them, to motivate them, to inspire, to set the direction, and to help them go with you, right? Not being. So I know very well from where your skills started on this volunteering job, and how was your kind of from the volunteering experience to the real company environments? What did you see? What could you start implementing, and why?
So, first of all, the best thing, being employee versus a volunteer was getting a monthly salary. This was motivating enough to give up volunteering and moving in the paid environment, because I'm coming from a basic family, so we didn't have. I don't have any entrepreneurs in my family. Neither my parents; they were all employees. And from this perspective, I think I needed to get in the business environment so that I can make a living, because I think initially that's what everyone wants to do. When you are young, you need to have your pocket money. You need to become a bit more independent from your family. So I was moving there. So the first big advantage that I had was that during the interviews, I was able to say something. I was not only having my studies, which everyone had, but I had a bit of experience. I have I was already exposed to an interview, for example, because we were doing interviews and I was organizing interviews as a volunteer there. I interacted with customers. We were going to apply for different sponsorships to different companies. So I have been exposed to dealing with some corporate employees who are supporting our activities. So when I had the interviews, I had already had a small story to say. And this was, I think, a differentiating factor versus the counter candidates that were applying for the same roles. Then when I actually started working, obviously, it helped me interact. As I mentioned, I was working in sales. So the fact that I already pitched for, getting some customers in the university, during the university, now it was much easier. I felt more comfortable. I didn't feel the stress that somebody who's never been exposed to communicating face to face to an important person, as we call them, a manager working in a company. It really helped me become appreciated by the customers, because they were not speaking with a completely new guy trying to sell them something, and also build the confidence. It gave me the confidence that I can open the doors and start selling whatever I had to sell. Throughout the career that started, as I said, with very entry-level roles, and I'm very grateful for this as well, because I was able to understand the organization from the bottom. I could always, being there, working there directly with the customers, directly with the colleagues who are working operationally on the businesses, I could really understand how things are working. I think today for any leader, it's critical that you understand the details of the activity that happens in an organization, because otherwise you don't know exactly. Maybe you don't know where you're going, and it's very hard to motivate people to follow you as long as you don't understand the core of the business that you are leading, or the organization. It doesn't even have to be a business. So when I was volunteering, we knew what we were doing. We knew why we were doing what we were doing. We were basically offering the chance of students to go in an international internship, so they can develop their skills, they develop their understanding of business, not only in Romania, but across the world, and vice versa, bringing foreign students in Romania to make some practical practice in Romanian companies, And this was something that was motivating in itself, You were building other people, we were building other students, we were giving many, people of our age, more or less, we were giving them the chance to develop themselves. And the organization actually gave a lot of leaders worldwide. It's one of the largest organizations in the world, and it gave a lot of leaders that lately, some of them I met in the corporate career. I was surprised, during interviews to figure out that, my bosses interviewing me, they were actually former ISEC members. And this was something really impressive because obviously we already had some common background that we could talk about.
And that move, I would say, from the volunteering to corporate, you mentioned about the skills about interviewing people,
Yes.
motivating them. How easy or difficult was that when you started working in a real corporation with its own culture, with its own rules? How did you use those skills that you were coming from volunteering in the real workplace?
It was a natural transition, I would say, of the skills. Luckily, during that time in Romania, the concept of multinational companies was new, right? So it was the boom when all the foreign companies were investing in Romania. And I was blessed to be there at the right time with the right skills that I already gathered.
So it's very good to hear that you had experience in a volunteer organization and you started developing those skills. So how did it feel when moving from volunteer to corporate, right? How could you start implementing those skills in corporate, and which problems did you have?
What I realized is that there is not a huge difference between one and the other, in the sense that the activities were pretty similar. The skills we needed in both corporate and volunteer were pretty much the same, because and that's when I realized that actually what you need in life is universal, let's say, right? The skills that you need. If you're a good communicator, for example, right? These things that I learned in the volunteering part are always useful in the career afterwards. If you talk about managing to properly understand the people's needs, no matter what are those people doing, then you can obviously come with a solution for them, no matter what is that solution that you are selling or you're offering for free or you're, asking for contribution as a volunteer organization. So at the end of the day, everything that I've learned there, I was able to implement in my corporate career afterwards. And every time, with every role that I had, I added, something on top of what I already knew. And this was something great because during the years, I realized that obviously I didn't know everything. When you leave school, especially the type of school we have here in Romania, or we had 20 years ago, it's not really, the school doesn't really prepare you for the real world outside. And then you realize when you are out there that you really need to learn a lot of new things that nobody prepare you for. Just to give you some examples, we study a lot of theoretical things, a lot of mathematics, formulas, stuff during many years of school, and then you realize you don't really use those things in the real life when you start working. But at the same time, you realize that those things are actually helping you later on, because you need to have some basic, knowledge of finance. You need to have some basic knowledge of literature, because you need to have a speech which is proper and well done. You need to have many of the skills you actually learn in school, although they are not identical with what you study.
You develop the capacity to
exactly
to learn as well.
And it's a never-ending story. It's a never-ending learning journey, and this is something that we realize more and more, especially nowadays. With the technology and with everything moving at a pace like never before in history, we really need to be open to continuously learn, even many after we graduate and we say, okay, it's done, from now we only need to work. We really need to learn and reinvent ourselves, because otherwise we will not be able to keep up to date with the realities of today.
Yes. No, it's a very good comment you made before about the same skills that you learned in the volunteering job or volunteering activity, you could implement, because the activities you said are more or less the same. And I think you didn't say, but implies the comment that you're dealing with people.
Absolutely.
Right. So you're dealing with people. Doesn't matter that they are volunteers or they are employees. And those skills that you learned in the volunteer help you in the corporate, right? But coming back what you said, that in the university we learn many things, but are technical things, right? Either it's finance, engineering, whatever it is, technical. The technical part, I didn't hear, at least in myself, too much time devoted or too much emphasis from the university to teach about communication, to teach about how you deal with people, how you cooperate, how you resolve conflicts. None of this, right? So you learn this in the kind of volunteering, in the volunteering activity, and then you keep learning all your life in the corporate. If you could identify, after you move to corporate work, which skills you miss the most that you didn't have and you had to develop?
I think the most important one was communication. You very properly mentioned the fact that indeed, unless you are following a university focused on communication, which obviously will develop some skills in that area, we don't have a culture of developing those skills in the university. And I was surprised, because I work with people from the US, for example, and I realized that the way they learned and they studied there is very different from how we study here in the eastern part of Europe, because they were putting a lot of emphasis on communication. And whenever, we were meeting and we were discussing and we were negotiating, I realized that they are at different level altogether. And I learned from them. Many times I was looking at them as, heroes, and I was trying to learn from them, because they were able to articulate the ideas so well. They were able to speak in public in front of, many people that they'd never met before. And they were so bang on, on the things they wanted to say, while we were not having this school
we are not
and this experience.
Yeah. Exactly, because we didn't learn before.
We didn't learn it before, so we had a disadvantage, let's say. So I tried always to learn from other people who are better in this area, and to absorb as much as I could, from what from the way they were putting the ideas, the mindset, and everything. So this was probably the most important thing I was missing, and I had to develop and to learn it, on the hard way. The other thing was on organizing things, being able to organize, first of all, my time, my agenda, because many times there were so many distractions. There are so many emails, very well in the corporate world. There is a volume of information which is huge that passes through you or in front of you. And then you really need to be very focused and be able to distinguish between what is important, what is critical, and what is just, garbage, let's say. This is also something that nobody teaches us in school, how to prioritize, how to decide, because when you have 5 emails in a day, it's fine. When you have 500, you really can't go through them physically. And then you really need to do something about it. And that's something, again, I learned the hard way. I tried to make all kind of juggling between the email, creating different folders, putting information in pieces so that I can manage to go through them. And I have to say, even today, after many years of career, I'm not great at properly reading emails. I'm always behind and trying to understand what's important. Luckily, nowadays, I realize that if something is burning, somebody will give me a call as well. So that's the second thing which I was missing. And I think the third one was, again, understanding people's psychology and understanding people's...
Big topic.
Exactly. So, many times I realized that I was sitting in front of different partners, whether they were colleagues of mine, whether they were customers or suppliers. And I realized that I didn't know how to read between the lines. I was listening very clearly what they were saying. What they were saying was not always what they meant to say. So I had to develop the skills of reading, through the lines and reading the person in front of me and trying to understand, what exactly that person wants and how I can serve that need. So that was another skill I had to develop on my own, because nobody taught me, neither in the volunteering part nor in the corporate later on. I had to really do it. And the more I realized, the more I practiced, the better I became to it,
Yes. This is especially critical for people who have a strong technical background. So you are very good at what you do. And but in an organization, you work with people. And I have seen examples where some managers saying, "No, but I sent an email, but they are not doing," right? So they are frustrated, or I told them 10 times and they are not doing. Maybe they heard you, but there is something else that you can do, right? And is this psychology that you say is how to deal with people, to come with them to in a common direction. It's not sending an email, is not telling them 10 times what you want to do, but is something else. And this something else you need to learn by doing.
And do it.
If you are open to do that, right?
Correct.
Because many people they think that they are right all the time, and they blame the others. No, now they're blaming. I have heard many different places. So you blame the country. No, in this country, things are not working. No, it's everywhere, right? I have worked in 3 different countries and with people from many other globally. The same, right? There is no country-specific idea. The generation, the new generation, they don't come motivated to work. Maybe you are old and you need to adapt, right? So it's all the time you have to do something else rather than, or besides your technical skill. If you are working with people, you have to do that. And as you say, nobody teach this in the university, at least in the technical university.
Correct. Yeah.
And in your evolution, I can tell about my own evolution. We didn't have this idea of having a coach or a mentor, right? We learn exactly what I resonated with what you said. You learn by doing. So you get to one organization, you look around, say, these people look senior and these people look successful. I will try to do as they do, and hopefully I will be successful as well, right? But there is no usually that type of coach, mentor, helping you, giving you feedback and trying to grow you like sportive people, right? Athletes that they work with somebody and they don't just go around and copy. No, they have somebody giving them specific direction and advice, right? What did you find in the organizations in the way of supporting people? Uh, did everybody did like you, looking around and trying to copy? Or did you find in any, because the organization you work for are not minor, are world leaders in what they do. How do you see this development in those organizations working?
I think that being part of this organization was absolutely critical for my development. From the theoretical school, these organizations were basically the practical schools, where you actually learn things in real life. And I have to say that I was lucky that I joined organizations that had very strong cultures, and they had very strong people who were able to teach us a lot of things. So in the beginning of my career, I was not looking that much about how much money I make, but I was looking more, what is this organization able to teach me? How can I become better by working with this organization versus the other one, where maybe I would get 100 euros more, but I would not have the chance to learn that much. So I consider this an investment, in my development. And I think I went through some of the best schools. At least Procter & Gamble, it's known to be one of the best school of business worldwide. And the amount of things that I've learned during that period was amazing. I had the chance to work with truly inspiring leaders, with truly inspiring people that they didn't have to do that much, but they were somehow able to transmit something that motivated me and my colleagues to do things better. And that was something great. And then I also had a fantastic opportunity later on. This was one of my dreams ever since university, to have an international role somewhere abroad, and not necessarily abroad in Europe, but as far away as possible. So I was blessed to end up in India, where I spent a bit more than 2 years. And there again, I had a chance.
In which organization?
In Vodafone.
Vodafone.
Yes. So there I had again the chance to work with some of the brightest minds in the industry. So Vodafone, known to be a worldwide leader, and in India, where you have so many smart people, obviously a large corporation like that would gather quite a lot of talent. And it was amazing to learn from a completely different culture, so many new things that I was not able to see back home, let's say.
Which do you have some specific examples on how Vodafone is a good example? No, it's a global company working in Romania or in Europe or in India. From those that approach on developing people and doing business, which are the differences that you would identify?
I could say that the worldwide strategy is same everywhere. But obviously there are a lot of local influences to the global structure and to the global strategy. And what I've experienced by working in different operating companies, being in group level, group entity, being in South Africa, being in India, I've seen small differences at the outside, but very, very, very big differences on the inside. And just to give you some examples, the mindset of the global organization was designed by people working in the Western world. I'm sorry. The other, when we were working in emerging markets, obviously the mindset of Western European would not work. The pricing strategy, the commercial strategy, the type of features that a device, for example, a smartphone needs in India versus Germany, are completely different. So it was the biggest challenge we had as group entities, was to try to harmonize things between the local culture, the local needs, and the global strategy. And that was something that hit me big time, first time when I left the country, because here I already had some, I could say I had some good experience, and I knew how to deal with people, how to make things, how to motivate people, how to keep the teams engaged. And then I ended up in a culture where in the beginning I was shocked because none of the things that I learned here back home were working there. And I had to, for 6 months, I remember I had to really observe the local colleagues, how they do it, how they do it, because for me, it didn't make any sense. I mean, we were used here with very clear guidelines. Everyone was responsible for something, and then there was a deadline, and then things were happening until the deadline. And I said, okay, we'll do the same there. We were giving a certain agenda, what everyone needs to do in the team. And after a week, we would meet. And I was like, okay, did you do this? No. Why? I mean, with this, no, we will do it. We will do it. I couldn't realize how to do it eventually because nothing was happening. Until I started realizing that people needed a much more closed eye on them, much more follow-up, more often than once a week, being closer to them and trying to gain their trust. They didn't work for you as a manager because somebody in Vodafone Group imposed you as their manager. They would only work with you if they trusted you. And that was something that really, really blew my mind, because I realized that first things first you need to build people's trust by proving with real things that you are with them, that you are supporting them, and you are there to make their life better and not the opposite. So this was something that took me half a year to learn, and only afterwards I was able to deliver results because it's a very big cultural difference, and then I moved to Germany. From India, I moved straight to Germany, having a global role for the emerging markets outside of Europe. And I had to convince my German colleagues that, we need to build something for emerging markets which doesn't have that many certifications, that many, things which are adding up costs. And they were like, no. So again, I said, okay, now with these people, how do I gain their trust? Because I was there on the ground. I gained the experience. I know what the consumer wants there. How do I convince them that what the consumer wants in emerging markets is very different from what they want in Western world? And that was another challenge, because there it was a different setup with the German mindset. You had to be very organized. You need to make proper presentations. You need to make solid business cases, solid solutions, which they would accept. And even that would be difficult, later on. So I had to change a lot of things, which I knew. Now I know, now I'm the best. Nobody's better than me. And then I got a hit realizing it's not the reality. I still have a lot of things to learn.
Yes. So that international experience, I would say, gave you a lot of a wider perspective that will make you more aware and adaptable to different scenarios.
Correct.
So this is something that I would recommend to people who really want to learn. It's kind of free. The only thing you have to do is to move 1-2 years. But to get out of your comfort zone, if you have the opportunity, and if not, fight for it, provoke that opportunity to happen, because the advantage that you get is tremendous, right? When I decided to move from Valencia to Czech Republic, some of my colleagues said, well, what are you doing? Where are you going? We live here very well. It's a good environment. But what you learn when you get out of your comfort zone is you cannot pay with money. Just doing a training, right? Is one experience that gives you a little bit much more color to your leadership skills. That if you just work in the same organization, when I hear some people say I'm working in the same organization for 20 years. I said, okay, maybe a couple of years out, and you will see things totally different than no matter how good you are.
Absolutely. I have to say that I left 2 companies because I realized that I'm not able to get this dream come true. And I left companies which were not bad at all, including Procter and Gamble, where I had applied for an internal role in Asia, in Singapore. Very nice role, which I liked. And the hiring manager gave me the job. And then the local organization refused to let me go so that they don't create a precedent. And that was something that made me leave the company. Although I have so many friends who are still working there after 20 years, they have great careers and they went abroad and so on. But for me, I didn't have the patience. I wanted to make it happen faster. And then I left another company, Nokia, for the same reason that, I could not get that role abroad that I was dreaming of. So sometimes, and again, my family, my friends were not really understanding, why are you doing this? I mean, who leaves a company like that? Who leaves a company which is so great? You have so many opportunities. They pay well. They give you chance to develop. Why would you leave? I left because I knew where I wanted to go. I think this is also very important for everyone, because when I was in school, I didn't really know where life will take me. My father, I remember, he was very upset because I didn't know precisely what I want to do, and it felt like I would not do anything in life. But I kept my options open always, and then I pushed for getting those things that I wanted to do. And I think that's another thing. Is persistency is important in leadership, because many times there are so many, as I said, distractions of the way. There are so many ways you can choose. You can go left, you can go right, and you never know what's at the end of those roads. But then, if you are persistent and you don't stop, because sometimes you say, okay, I don't know, should I go left, or I better stay here because I'm comfortable here, I know what is happening here. No, you really need to move. Unless you move, from my perspective, you can't discover the best of you. It's really hard to discover the best of you unless you really run left and right and to figure out what's there. And you make mistakes, obviously, right? Not that all the decisions I took in life were great. Exactly. Not that all the roads I chose were the best ones, but at least I tried, and I want, my dream is that at the end of life, when I will be on my deathbed, I will have as few regrets as possible. I think that's the most thing. I say, okay, I tried this. Fine, I'm happy. I mean, I don't regret not trying that.
Yeah. I didn't know that we had so many things in common, right? Because I have experienced almost everything that you are saying. So, talking about the skills, we discussed about the competence on communication that you got, competence on understanding people, and you set up on the psychology of people that we are not taught in the schools. You talked about now adaptability, and we talked about the importance of getting out of your comfort zone and see different things, how different alternatives on how the same thing can be done depending on the situation, the culture, or the people that you are dealing with. So let me change gears a little bit, right? Because the second part of your journey is what I found really, really interesting. So, Bogdan, after
17 years,
17 years working in different multinational environments, he decided to follow his passion. And so tell us a little bit about how this came and how was this transition?
It was very interesting, and I will share with you the start of this journey. So when I was living in India, I discovered someone who I think is probably the best leader I've seen out there. And this leader is a spiritual leader in the name of Sadhguru. He's quite famous. He has built an organization, a worldwide organization that has, I think nowadays, more than 5 million volunteers worldwide. He's one of the best known, let's say, gurus in India and worldwide. And I had the chance to attend some of the programs, the volunteers were organizing there in Bombay. And I have felt something that I never felt before, which was something beyond what I can explain or what I can share through words. But I felt something special out there. So I decided to continue digging into this direction because I was at a point where I realized that career is great, but there is no end to it, right? You can always find the next step, the next step, the next step you can follow. And that, moving from one step to the other, it doesn't really give that much pleasure, or it gives you a temporary pleasure. So going in an ashram in India, practicing some meditation, a couple of days without a phone, without a book, without communicating and stuff, being able to sit with myself and, practicing some basic yoga things. That's when I started realizing that maybe there is a bit more to life than career only, than corporate world only, which until that point in time was everything for me. I realized that I was over 30. I didn't have a family. I didn't have my house, let's say. I would only stay in hotels and renting in the world. I didn't have a purpose. The only purpose was to have a better title on the business card and a nicer car and maybe a better paycheck. But I could see that this guy was able to influence so many people from all backgrounds, from very basic rural population up to country presidents, ministers, and very well-known celebrities around the world. And all that without being an imposed leader. He built this organization from nothing, and he managed to be known and appreciated and respected worldwide. And I said, wow, this is fantastic. I followed as much as I could. And that's when I decided that I want to experience something else as well. So when I was still in India and having 20 million neighbors in Bombay and never being able to find a spot where I would be with myself, I said, okay, let me find a place, maybe for retirement, where I will have no neighbors. So I searched on OLX, how could I find a small house with some, 10 hectares around it, so that nobody comes close to my house. And it happened that I found this place 1 hour away from Oradea in the mountains. So I came to see it. It was in the middle of the winter. I was still living in India. I saw a white blanket of snow as much as I could see with my eyes. And I said, this is the place. I didn't see anyone on the street. I only saw forests. And I said, wow, that's the place. So I said, okay, I will stay here. I was still obviously in the corporate world. I didn't pay for the land at that point in time. I said, I'll come in spring to sign the document. So I came in spring and I saw something which was incredible. I thought I died and I reached the promised paradise because everything was miraculously beautiful. We had cherry trees blossomed, we had bees, we had green grass everywhere, forest all over. I said, no, this is not the place to retire. This is the place to move immediately because I can really make a different life in such an environment. So it took me another 2 years to properly leave the corporate world and leave all the things in order there. And I decided to move there permanently. So I quit my fancy corner office in Düsseldorf to move in a village, in a house where I was in a co-shared house with mice and mosquitoes and spiders. And, I spent almost a year doing nothing, watching the rain, watching the birds, just sitting and absorbing, whatever that place was offering. It's the so-called sabbatical that, everyone is dreaming of in corporate life. I didn't know. I thought, okay, maybe I'll do this and then I'll come back after a while. And then for 1 year, I was relaxing my mind, slowing down my mind, having more time, waking up on Monday mornings without any pressure, without any agenda, without any meetings or calls. I didn't know what to do with my time, obviously, in the beginning. And because of that, because I didn't know what to do with my time, I said, okay, let's see what we do with this land. It's a pity to keep it like this, naked. Let's try to put something here. And slowly, I, met friends. I met people I knew. I realized that people are becoming, the kind of people I had to meet were appearing in my life because obviously I started to look after them. All my friends were corporate guys, obviously, because I had to make new friends because they were not really helpful in this new environment. So after many, ideas and stuff, we said, okay, let's build a small orchard that we can manage easily. Because I only learned agriculture on the YouTube. And on YouTube, everything seemed super simple. I mean, people there were happy. Everything was growing. Everything was fantastic. Okay, what is so difficult? Let's do it. And then from something small that I was planning to do, I got too many ideas from different people, plus my own. And I said, okay, if anyways I'm going to build something, let's use the support of the European Union, the grants that are available. So I built a project that became a bit more than I was expecting. So we were able to access a grant. We were able to implement this project, which was worth close to 1 million euros. And with this support, we were able to build a farm from scratch, growing now 3,500 hazelnut trees and close to 1 hectare of raspberries in greenhouse, plus a small production side where we are processing the fruits that we are growing. Obviously, the quiet environment that I was looking for and the peace of mind is gone. I was able to bring now, not the corporation, but a lot of activity in the mountains together with me. And this was a transition that was super complicated. As a respected leader in a global organization, worldwide, with departments supporting my activity, having finance, having HR, having technical teams, having all that, all the knowledge out there, and moving to a place where I had to be the accountant, I had to be the engineer, I had to be everything. It was a shock in the beginning. And it became even a bigger shock when I realized that I have to sustain all this with my own resources, also financially. So I had to completely make a mind shift from where I was to where I came to. And the biggest shock was actually dealing with local public administration, not local, but regional public administration, with authorities, things that I've never experienced before. I mean, all these things were done by some department in the corporation. Somebody else was bothering about these things. I knew only that, this is my budget, this is my responsibility, this is what I need to manage. But everything else in the backstage was done by someone else. So it was really a shift in mindset that had to transform also my leadership style and things. If before I was working with very well-educated people who also had ambitions like me, who also understood that if they do the job properly, they will grow. I will grow together with them. We will all be developing ourselves. Now I had to speak with people who were cutting grass and who didn't have any expectation whatsoever to build a career in cutting grass, to become the head of cutting grass. So I had to completely change the speech. I had to completely change the way I motivate people. I lost a lot of people because I didn't know how to speak with them. I thought that, if you pay fairly and if you tell them what they need to do, they will do it. No, they don't do it, because people in the village, they don't need your money as much as you need their help. They wanted to be friends before they wanted to do the work. They wanted to feel relevant, to feel appreciated, to feel that you care about them, not necessarily paying them 10 lei more. So I had to, first of all, I've learned one super important skill, which I think I've lost in corporate, which was humbleness. The biggest thing was to become humble again and to realize that with all the money in the world, with all the grants, with all the, you need people to make things for you, to help you, because you can't do it alone, right? When you're an entrepreneur, a beginning entrepreneur like I was, obviously I was doing everything myself. And then we want to grow, right? Every organization that you are building, you want to grow it, you want to develop it. But it's very hard to leave things from your hands. You think that you are the best. You think that nobody can do those things better than you, which is not true, because you know some things, but other people would know other things better than you. Plus, you only have 24 hours. So you need to start sharing responsibility. You need to start trusting people. You need to teach people how to do things if you want them to do them as you want. You have to explain. You have to explain why. You have to explain the bigger picture. Like there is this, story about those stone workers building a church, an important church. You know the story, right? So it's important that people would not feel that they are cutting grass, but they are building an orchard that will give a lot of jobs, a lot of fulfillment, the community, and so on, right? It's a very different perception altogether. So humbleness was the most important thing I had to learn. Then I had to learn more and more about trust, right? Giving things from your own hands to other people, and trusting they will do it right. And then obviously commuting very fast between different topics, because in order to keep the operation running, I had to also have a job. So I am working with my friends, which are in the other part of the world, close to the Danube River, close to Bucharest. And we are working together and we are developing the business there as well, because I wanted to also keep a contact with the, how to say, brighter people, with people that would appreciate also the skills that I still had, and not let them go, because everything that you don't use, you lose, right? It's a reality. If you don't practice English, after a while you forget speaking English. If you don't practice your skills that you built over years for several years, you lose them. So I wanted to keep engaged. I wanted to still have, a bit of a reality check with the, not corporate, because it's a smaller local company, but we deal with big corporations as our customers. And all the things that I've learned through my career, I am using them in my entrepreneurial life, and they help me a lot. Some customers are surprised because I'm attending the trade, the fair, the farmer markets, and the different trade exhibitions across the country. And sometimes I find myself selling in 4 or 5 different languages, with different people coming from tourists and so on. And they're like, how come these guys know so many things? He's a nut
He's
seller,
a farmer.
He's a nut seller. He's a farmer. I mean, come on. We are building with my wife the entire marketing positioning of the farm, and these are skills that you need, and you learn them during the corporate life. So all the things that I've learned help me be successful, let's say, today in the small business that we have built.
Very good. Very. No, you said one thing that I was thinking. why we don't have this incorporate so much, right? Is what you say about humbleness and explaining people the why and kind of, you cannot be friend of everybody, but being close to them before you ask them to do something. This is not kind of common in big organizations, right? So it's good that you put there like something that you need to develop more to do business with the humbleness. What do you think? Why do you think this is not part of the corporate culture to do business in a more humble way, explaining people why we have to do things and partnering to do together?
I think it depends, obviously, organization by organization. I had the chance to work with humble leaders, and I think they inspired me to be like that. It's a kind of curse, when you are working in very large organization, which have very strong financial power, market share, the share prices are increasing, everything is going super well. It's very hard to remain humble because you become associated with the company, with the brand, and you forget that you are not the company, and then you become acting like the company. If the company, and I will give you an example with companies like Nokia, right? Which was a company that was super successful. And from my perspective, the reason why Nokia failed, although they had 90% plus market share worldwide, was exactly the fact that they've lost touch with reality, and they did not care that, they've lost humbleness. They were too big, too arrogant, and they thought, nothing can change. Where you had a 90% market share worldwide, you think that you will stay there forever. And then this is the biggest curse, because you lose touch with reality. And people working for the company were also having the same mindset, were also feeling arrogant. They were treating their partners, their customers very badly because they could do it.
Their position, right?
Position.
They have a position of power.
They had the strength. They had the muscle to say, okay, if you don't agree with my conditions, it's no problem. I will not sell you my phones. And if you don't have my phones, you will struggle.
You don't have anything.
You will struggle, right? So this is the biggest, from my perspective, what I've seen in the large corporates is exactly this thing. When you believe that you are the best and you forget to touch point with reality from time to time, you tend to lose it all. And there are many examples in the history of the corporate world with large organizations which disappeared or became insignificant after being market leaders in their field, simply because of this reason. I see the same thing happening in our country, in some people that I've met, some companies that I work with who have this arrogance. We are the best. We don't care about the others. We don't have competition, or our competition is way, less strong than us, weaker than us, and so it's a culture that should be changed. It's many times I was inviting when I was having leadership roles in the corporate world, I was pushing a lot my teams to take me and meet customers. Small customers across the country. When I was in South Africa, I pushed them to take me to some slums to meet some sellers there, some small mom and pop shops who are selling our SIM cards, right? Because I wanted to get their feedback, looking in their eyes, trying to get the reality. Because if you, and they were like, no, you don't have to go there. We will show you. We have nice presentation, insides, everything. No, I want to go there. Although I know it's dangerous because it's just not the safest place in the world. I want to see it myself. And whenever we were doing field visits, like proper field visits, and most of the time I was not making them very well announced, prepared, because I knew that then everyone is painting the fence and everything looks perfect. Whenever we were doing that, after that, we had so many more insights and we could really change the strategy because we could really see the reality on the ground. The biggest problem that leadership has today is that they are being kept isolated from the ground. They are being isolated from the reality happening on the ground. With such strong structures of middle managers, directors, and so on, many times the CEO doesn't know what's happening because nobody tells him the truth. Everyone is telling them what they want him to know or what they want to present, right?
This would deserve a totally new session about, about how things work.
Exactly. So for me, the lesson is clear, and that's something I always encourage. Also my friends working in large organizations. I said, try to practice humbleness. I think it's one of the most important trainings that should be happening in corporate world. Humbleness, especially for the best. So you need to target the best companies out there. If today Apple is the biggest company, you need to teach humbleness to Apple employees. Although it's not easy, trust me, because the way they select those people is that they are filtering the one which are the most, prepared and senior and well educated and so on, because they can afford to have anyone they want. And it's hard to teach those people humbleness, And if you teach them today, they have a chance that the company will still be there and strong in 20 years from now. If not, it will follow probably the same path as all the others,
Very good. Very, very, inspiring message, Bogdan, about no matter how successful you are, how many skills you get, that definitely those skills that you got in your corporate career help you definitely on your new business adventure. But this touch about being humble, developing trust with people, and partnering with them, this sometimes is not present in the corporate world, and but it is something for us to consider, right? So if we are, you don't need to deal with somebody who cuts grass to be humble. You can be humble in your environment, wherever you work.
Absolutely.
But certain positions or cultures are not kind of contributing to this, right? So it's a very inspirational message to, no matter where you are, keep humble, right?
Absolutely.
Keep being humble.
Absolutely.
and treat people as they deserve. This is not putting you down. It is not disconsidering your value. I would say more the opposite.
Absolutely.
Right? I see these pictures when I remember one picture when Barack Obama was walking on the aisle in NASA, and he was stopping to greet one people who was cleaning the floor, right? So no matter which position you are, being humble and showing your human part with the people you work, this is, in some environments, like what you mentioned, is needed. In some others, would be really beneficial.
Absolutely.
To
I have to say that it's not only happening in large organizations or multinational corporations. It can happen even in smaller companies.
Definitely.
Because even in a smaller company, if you are the best company in your town, you tend to feel that you are also working for Apple in Cupertino.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's important.
The best company in your town, maybe not, but you are the owner, and you being the owner, who with whom you need to be humble.
Exactly.
Right? So everybody has to do what I'm saying. And even in this environment, it's more difficult.
Absolutely. It's more difficult, and it has to be, again, especially if you have a successful business of your own, then again, the risk is that you get disconnected from the reality on the ground. You don't want to listen, you don't want to hear that maybe some things are cooking out there, and then you get hit by a shock wave when it's actually happening. So, yeah.
So, based on all these values, this journey, this kind of new awareness that you got in your different things, how is now your new company? How is now your new project that you have developed together with your family?
It depends from which perspective. I think, first of all, the best thing about this business, let's call it that way, about this venture, is the fact that it helped us change our lifestyle and our life environment. So we moved from the concrete jungle to the real jungle. We are living inside the orchard, and the orchard is inside the forest. So we are quite isolated in the mountains, which helped us change our lifestyle in a sense that we are spending more time in the outdoors. Our children are having a childhood similar to what we had, many years ago, which is hard to do these days in the city. They are walking, 1 kilometer to go to the bus school. Sometimes the weather is not the most pleasant one, out there in the mountains. They are playing outside with stones, with sand, with insects, with whatever they find. They breathe fresh air. One is cooking at home because we don't have a supermarket close by. So she's cooking fresh food every day. So first of all, the biggest gain we have is that our life improved from this perspective of the quality of life. While we don't have that much money as we used to have in the city, we also need less money because the temptations are far less. You don't go out, you don't go in a shopping mall every day to see many things that you don't have. And this gives us a bit of peace of mind, on the first hand. The second thing is that unlike the corporate world where you are a small wheel in a big machine, in this case, we are building the machine while it is running. So we learn by doing, we make mistakes, we correct them on the go. And when we look around, when I look around that land, which was a bare land without anything growing there except weeds and toned plants, now we see an orchard, we see trees. Matei, our son, was saying recently that, when we came to this place, the trees were so tiny, and so was I. And nowadays, I grew up, but also the trees, it's like, these are my brothers, we grew up together. So you leave something behind. It's when you plant, they say you need to plant a tree, build a house, and make a child. So if you plant 3,500 trees, then you really have the satisfaction that this has grown from your hands somehow, and this is giving us a lot of joy when we look how we started, when we saw all this process step by step from nothing to what it is today, and obviously every year it keeps developing. It's fantastic, and it gives us a great feeling. Business-wise, agriculture, I would not encourage anyone to do agriculture because there are so many other ways in which you can be much more successful, much faster than agriculture. At the same time, there is one thing that people nowadays, I think, tend to forget because we put so much emphasis and so much value on intangible things, right? We all want technology, AI, robots, and so on. But we will need to eat no matter what happens. We as a species, we need to eat, and ideally we need to eat proper food. So I said, okay, let's build something organic. Let's build a farm which will work in harmony with the environment, not against the environment. Let's not put chemicals, not put poison into the soil and then feed our children with poison. Let's rather try to do something different, which might not be as productive as the conventional agriculture, but at least the quality of what we get will be very different. And our consumers today really appreciate that. We are not an industrial business. We cannot produce huge volumes to be listed in supermarkets countrywide or go to export. But we are really focused on keeping the quality as we want for our children. Now, we don't want to make any compromise when it comes to this. We are not yet at break even because the investments were huge. and the trees take their own time to grow. They only are entering now the 5th year of life, and they will only reach maturity probably in another 4 or 5 years. Until then, obviously, we are not yet able to make the ends meet. However, we are able to reinvest the money that we are producing in order to become more present, to attend different events across the country, and to make more people taste our products. And we know that once they taste, they become, our fans and our loyal consumers over time.
Yes, I think so. I have to say that first time that I tasted your products, I was not a fan of hazelnuts. Was not my favorite nut, no. But when I tasted and the different varieties that you do with chocolate, with chili, with different, I say that they are delicious, really delicious. And when you taste them, kind of you want to keep them huge difference between these ones and the ones that you can buy in any supermarket. So I think that the product is great. The image that you are getting, at least in Romania now, also is great. All the people who have tried your products are repeating and speaking
Yes.
very well about them. So that is very credit to you and to your wife that are bringing this business up. And I would say, what is the next step then for the company? Today, I know that you are almost sold out. Your production
Yes.
is kind of is sold out until next season that you get more fresh products. But what do you envision bringing the company?
My wife started talking about our products before we had our first products even born. And I was a bit upset, I said, how can you talk about things which we
That's
actually
vision.
don't
That's
have?
vision.
But she was very smart because we wanted, when you live in a forest and when your business in the middle of the mountains, you cannot expect that people will walk in front of your door and say, oh, this is something interesting, let's try. We had to be very active. And she was brilliant in creating the awareness about what we do, where we do, and communicating with people who are interested in what we do on a constant basis, even before we had any product, as I mentioned. Now we are very blessed, I think, because there are not that many businesses which are having this issue to not be able to produce as much as the demand is, right? And I think this is fantastic because in this way we are really seeing that what we do is the right thing. Now, when it comes to development, there are so many opportunities. We discuss with so many people who are willing to support us, to invest in us, to help us grow faster. But we cannot grow faster than the trees. That's what I tell everyone, We are working with nature. If we would be in an industrial business like we are in Oltenica, you can always build a new building, buy another 5 machines, more modern, more complex, and your output will grow, the next day. In our case, it's not the same because and that's another thing I've learned very well doing this business, patience. I'm not a patient person at all. I hate waiting, for things, especially for things that I want to happen. I was not patient in the corporate world either. I wanted to make things happen. And I think that's the school of corporate that pushes you always, to fight for,
faster, better.
being faster, growing better, developing much faster than you can actually do it. And then I came here. So no matter how much I pushed the trees, they did not want to grow faster. No matter how much I wanted the nature to not have a freeze in April last year, to lose half the production, I could not do anything. So I learned that you need to work in the rhythm of the nature. If this is how much the trees are producing this year, this is how much we will sell. We don't want to make compromise. We don't want to import hazelnuts from Turkey, which is something that many companies are doing, and some of them are trying to imitate what we do. It's not going to be the same because we want to keep authentic and we want to do things as we can. Will this limit our development, our growth? Yes, definitely. Could we grow faster? Definitely, we could grow faster, but that would mean doing something different and wrong, which we don't want to do. So we really want to invest in further improving the quality. We are now exploring an implementation of optical sorters with X-rays in order to be 100% sure that we eliminate any nut which is not perfect from the very beginning. We want to focus more on increasing quality, adding more certifications to the products we make, validating with external auditors the product that we put in the market. So we prefer rather to sell less but better quality product rather than being tempted to say, okay, let's make volumes no matter what. So this is our strategy, and this is something we will keep following in the following years.
Very, very good example about how to grow a business following your values, no matter what, right? You could do things, you could cut corners, but you are willing to develop what you have in mind, and this is what you are following without compromising with anything. Right? So this is.
I think it's important, and it's important also for our team members and for our family to have a clear direction and to know what we are, who we are. We can't say we have a culture because we are a too small company. We don't have the culture structure that a multinational organization has, but we have some small principles that we are trying to keep and to follow, and we are aligned with our family to do that.
So if somebody would like to contact you for whatever reason, right? I mean, the first step is to test your products, right?
Yes.
And then to even you said that you will some people wanted to invest in your business. If somebody wants to know Bogdan and his business, his journey, what should they do?
There are many options depending on where they are on this planet or outside the planet. The first thing is our doors are always open. So we have a principle of complete openness. We have received during these years many visitors in the farm from across the country and even from abroad who were curious, who heard about us, many friends of ours who recommended us, and we organized U-Peak events in the farm. People came. Sometimes we were not even at home. They came, they picked the raspberries in summer, they tasted, they enjoyed. So we are what we are building is not for us. It's for the community, I would say. We are trying to not be very, closed. We don't have anything to hide, so anyone could, cross our our door and come and see with their own eyes what we are doing. They can taste the products, the fruits from the plants themselves when it's the season. So this is the first thing, which is convenient for people who are not that far away, let's say from Shinteu, from where we are. The other way is that they are following us on our Facebook, Instagram pages at Safala Organic Farm.
Safala
Organic Farm. This is where they can see and follow what we do, what products are we launching, are we testing, and also they can see where we are present physically, because the best way to meet and to know us is to taste our products. And wherever we go, we organize tasting events. People can actually taste and feel the products. We realize that this is the best marketing we can do because we trust our product and we see the reaction of the people trying it firsthand without any prompt, We see that people are initially reluctant because, as you mentioned, not everyone likes hazelnuts. It's not a nut that is too popular, at least in Romania. And okay, I'll try. And they are disappointed. And then they touch it, we see that the face changes.
Yes.
Like, wow, but this is really amazing. How can you do these things? What's happening?
Yeah.
So I think it's still it's the other way to meet us, to follow where we are, in which cities we attend different exhibitions, fairs, and come there. Meet us personally, because we go ourselves. It's Juana and myself, and with the kids usually, because we don't have where to leave them, so we all go together to these exhibitions. they can come anytime and enjoy taste the products. And the third thing, if you can't find us anywhere, then we also have an online store, which is safala.ro, where anyone can see all the products which are available.
And order online. They can order online.
And they can order online. We deliver next day across the country in easy boxes at home, wherever is convenient for everyone. So we give also this opportunity for the nut-based products. For the raspberries, unfortunately, it's too perishable and we can't send them across the country. But this year we invested in a new technology because we wanted to extend the shelf life of the raspberries as well. So we will be freeze drying forest fruits, raspberries, blueberries, blackberries in summer, and they will be available as freeze dried across the year. This is a new thing. It's a new technology. We still need to teach people what it is because not many people heard about freeze drying and the benefits and the health benefits that it
will
brings.
Be available soon.
It will be available as soon as we will get the fruits. Now we only have available apples. So freeze-dried apples, which are, by the way, fantastic. We went to an event in Bucharest last weekend and everyone was super excited when they tasted. They did not expect to have this texture and this strong aroma of apple in a dry fruit. It's a very different experience altogether. So we were stocked out very fast. But when the fruit season will start, we will obviously have many more options, which obviously will become available for the people following what we do.
I have to go for it. I have to try.
You are invited.
Yes, I owe you a visit. And definitely now after winter we will definitely will meet.
Perfect.
Very good, Bogdan. So I think has been a pleasure for me having you here, sharing with that, with your humble approach, if I can say, all your journey, your learnings, your struggles, and your view about the company. That I wish you a great success. And I think knowing you will get there. And I would like to keep with the specific thing that you mentioned, right? So what I got this. You have corporate environment is very good as a platform for you to grow, but you have to know and to make your choices what you want to do to grow. So looking for things to happen, like international assignments, like special projects that will put you will make you develop certain fundamental skills needed, and then the part of your learning, your business, I remain with the need to be humble with people and the need to be patient. So these two things together usually in business are not present.
Correct.
And this is a very, very good learning that I think everybody willing to develop themselves in the leadership, even as a person. Absolutely. Doesn't mean leadership in one organization, because whatever you do, I heard somebody saying, are you married? Yes, you are a leader. You have a family, you are a leader, right? So you cooperate with some volunteering organization, you are a leader. You don't need to be top CEO of one company, but you are leading every day small things. You are leaving a trace behind you. And the more skills, the more awareness that you have, the better you will impact people around you. So
absolutely.
I got a very, very several bits of inspirations from your story, from your business, with who you are, and would be a pleasure keeping in touch. Maybe we can meet together in a next meeting to see how the evolution is going for you and how things move in the direction that you think.
Absolutely, it would be a pleasure. Thank you for the initiative. Thank you for inviting me. It was a great discussion from my perspective. I think we can definitely learn many things from each other. So I also learned a lot of things from you. I think there is no person in the world that you cannot learn something from.
Definitely.
And I'm really grateful that we had this opportunity to discuss today. And looking forward for follow-ups, of course, in the upcoming period. hoping to come with great news on both sides that we can share.
Definitely, we'll keep in touch.
Muchas gracias.
Gracias. Thank you very much, Bogdan. And to all of you, I will wait for the next edition of the podcast with some other person who we can learn and get inspired from the area of leadership, like Bogdan was today. Thank you very much, Bogdan.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome to Lead Up, It's All About You, the podcast where leadership meets action. My name is Eduard Lopez. I'm a leadership coach with a long experience leading teams in multinational organizations. Here we have the intention to explore practical insights, share real stories, and spark conversations that might make managers and leaders reflect and discover what works best for them and their teams. Whether you're managing a small team or leading on a global scale, this is your space to connect, explore ideas, and shape your own leadership journey. Let's then lead up together.